what the hell is wrong with people story? So one day, while riding the city bus, I saw a small child that had worked himself to about halfway out an open window while the bus was in motion. I gently pulled the child inside. He then started running up and down the center of the bus, got his mother's attention, she was on the phone, and told her that her son had just about gotten himself finished, literally, and she should keep an eye on him. I've never been in my life so rudely and violently insulted. Angry, discriminatory fury was hurled in my direction, and she made a fist like she was about to jab me. I backed off, she went back to her phone call, and the child kept on running around the bus. Another one, super similar to this one day, on a packed bus, I saw a very pregnant Mexican lady getting on with two kids in tow. I, myself, poor white dude, was standing in the aisle holding on to the overhead bar and didn't have a seat to give her. I saw three little black kids that had seats near the front door and politely explained to one of them that giving the pregnant lady their seat would be the right thing to do. The little girl obliged and promptly got up and stood next to her mother. Her mother then proceeded to scream at me for telling her kids what to do and was particularly upset that I didn't ask any white people to give up their seats. There were none near the entrance of the bus. After listening to her obscenity-filled tirade for a couple of minutes, I had enough and explained to her that if she had done her job as a mother, I wouldn't have had to ask her child to do anything. She should have been the one to set the example and offer up the seat to the pregnant lady, but nope, she didn't. She sat on her fat bum and ignored her like everyone else, so I persuaded her child to give up her seat to a pregnant woman. I asked her point blank, "Do you really think this is about race? Or is it about the fact that you are a horrible mother and now everyone, including your own children, knows?" She tried to muster a response but was too flabbergasted to. I was doing the hell yeah pose before doing the hell yeah pose was cool. I don't know what the hell is wrong with people either. Okay, at least a story with a happy ending. Heck yeah. Story 2. I was at a Starbucks last week. My girlfriend likes it. I prefer gas station coffee. And we were waiting in line. In front of us is a Hasidic guy, of which there is a large village in this town. And he hands the guy behind the counter a stained styrofoam cup because apparently Starbucks offers $1 off if you bring your own cup. Never mind the fact that they probably meant bring your own traveler mug. The guy still had old coffee in it from who knows how long ago. He asked the barista if he could heat up the coffee from the cup as well as get fresh coffee, and the barista, yes quotes because people know who make my coffee shouldn't try to make their job sound like they're lawyers, poured the dirty old coffee into the coffee machine. Like, what? It's old coffee. Basically just dirty water. Throw it away. Don't contaminate everyone else's coffee with something that probably not only had saliva, but backwash food bits and mold. Needless to say, we walked out immediately and will never go to that location again. I went to Quick Check instead and bought an excellent and reasonably priced cup of coffee. Story 3. Just a couple hours ago, I was rolling the trash out to the curb and observed an older woman and a man who could be her son, could be her husband, could be, I don't know, it doesn't matter. What matters is her chihuahua taking his little dump in my neighbor's yard. "You should clean up after your dog," I say, calmly, politely. "What did you say?" she says. "You shouldn't leave your dog's crap for others to pick up," I say. "Kiss my bum, you bald-headed jerk." This woman is, 60 or 65, missing more teeth than she has, and those she has are black, and her companion, son, husband, whatever, immediately consults the sidewalk as though he'd rather be anywhere but here. Me, I didn't see it coming and can only say, "What? Kiss my bum, jerk." "Oh, that's nice. You can't tell me what to do. I'm telling you it's the law that you clean up after your dog, and I'm telling you that it is rude to expect other people to clean up after your dog. Kiss my bum, you bald-headed jerk." Now, what transpired from there was me asking her in various ways how she justified leaving the cleaning of her dog's crap by other people, and her parrying with her refrain, "Kiss my bum, you bald-headed jerk." While I am bald, and she had me there, she never addressed my questions. Frustrated, I retreated to the house for my cell phone because I thought I would like to take a picture of her. I peeked at her through the living room windows as she passed my truck, which was parked on the street. She hoiked on it. I don't know how she knew it was my truck, but I snapped a little. I storm outside and say, "Where the hell did you come from? Who are you?" She says, of course, "Kiss my bum, you bald-headed jerk." "I am going to follow you home and crap on your porch," I say. She flips me a gnarled grin. Her son, husband, cousin, boyfriend, whatever, and the chihuahua continue to consult the sidewalk as they disappear down the hill and toward the park. I give up on people when grandma is a profane dirtbag. So this one's a little bit of a cliffhanger, eh? Because did he actually follow her home and crap on her porch? Because that's something I want to hear about. Story 4. Here's what I think is wrong with people, mainly what is wrong with employees and bosses and how things are how they are. I didn't write this, just read it somewhere. One great workplace mystery. Why do some people get punished for good work while people who do lousy work are rewarded for their slackness? Ordinarily, it's smart to make the most use of your best people. If Pat can build 10 types of widgets quickly and Chris can only do 2 kinds at a moderate tempo, then the smart response to a new complicated rush widget order is to give it to Pat. But in this scenario, Chris is less spectacular but still competent. It's when a weak manager and an incompetent worker enter the picture that the backwards reward system kicks in. One major rule of bad management is avoid problems. Bad managers don't know how to fix problems or deal with crises, so their management style is based on ignoring, waiting, hiding, or sweeping under carpets. When Mr. Dim Bulb considers his workers, he's not thinking, how do I get the best work out of this person? He's thinking, how can I get this person to create the fewest problems for me? For Mr. Dim Bulb, the best workers are the ones who solve their own problems, or at least won't pass them back up to the front office. If Mr. Dim Bulb needs to hand a flaming deceased possum to someone, he'll hand it to the person least likely to squirt it with kerosene and throw it back. So the best, most responsible workers get it. Pat may get tired and frustrated. Pat may go home thinking, can't Dim Bulb see that I'm ending myself putting out these possums? Can you see I'm staying late and starting early and wearing myself out? Can't he see there's a problem? The answer is no, he can't, because those problems aren't Mr. Dim Bulb's problems. All he knows, all he needs to know, is that there is no flaming possum on his desk. As long as he can make them go away by handing them off to Pat, Pat will be the flaming deceased possum specialist. But for Mr. Dim Bulb, Chris is a challenge. If Dim Bulb hands Chris so much as a slightly stuporous hamster, he'll get yelping from Chris, calls from the customer and Chris's supervisor, and complaints from all quarters about Chris's mishandling of the little dysfunctional rodent. Not only will he not get rid of the hamster, but Chris will manage to turn it into an angry water buffalo. From Dim Bulb's standpoint, the best job to give Chris is an assignment along the lines of, go sit in the shady corner and take a nap. So for doing good work, Pat gets dumped on, and for being incompetent, Chris gets a cushy job that demands little. A better manager than Mr. Dim Bulb would follow a simple 2-step process. Step 1, help Chris improve and become competent. Step 2, if Step 1 fails, fire Chris. A manager can skip Step 1 in certain extreme cases. Chris is late every single day, Chris blows up workplace, Chris hurts colleagues. But generally, the first move is to see if Chris can be salvaged or turned into something productive. It is, after all, a manager's job to figure out how to get the best work out of his people. Mr. Dim Bulb will not choose this option. He is pretty sure it would be hard. At the very least, it would require him to take on a problem, and this is where his fundamental weakness as a manager lies. You can only solve a problem if A, you acknowledge it exists, and B, acknowledge that it's your problem. And Dim Bulb's first priority is to make sure that he doesn't have any problems. And since none of the problems are his, he never solves any of them. He just keeps passing them on to employees who, as far as he knows, makes the problems go away. And he gets angry at the people who keep bringing him more problems. Under this system, competent employees face a tough decision. They can keep enabling their incompetent boss, like the alcoholic's wife who keeps telling the kids, Daddy missed Christmas because the space aliens got him. Or they can step back and let the next flaming possum burn the place down, thereby running the risk of either getting themselves fired or letting the workplace self-destruct. Option number 3 is to send articles like this one to Mr. Dim Bulb, but this never helps because the Dim Bulbs of the world will never recognize themselves in this column. Story 5. About 3 months ago, I made a move from San Francisco, California to Baton Rouge, Louisiana. Although the two cities aren't as dissimilar as I had initially expected, there have definitely been some moments of culture shock. For one thing, there's a Walmart on every corner out here. I was quite accustomed to seeing a Starbucks every time that I turned around, but Walmarts are few and far between in the Bay Area. Since my arrival in Louisiana, I've discovered that the convenience of shopping at a Walmart doesn't manifest as a result of their product selection or prices, but rather because you'll probably wind up walking into one by accident if you don't watch where you're going. On one such occasion, although I confess I may have gone inside on purpose, I decided that I wanted to stave off the southern heat with some ice cream. Immediately upon entering the frozen foods aisle, I was stopped dead in my tracks at the sight of the most unbelievably heavy woman I've seen in recent memory. Watching her move was like witnessing an unruly mass of chocolate pudding in its struggle to escape from a bright pink sweatsuit. Also, as misfortune would have it, the woman in question was standing directly in front of the ice cream selection, apparently delighting in the cold air that was escaping from the door she had propped open with her enormous posterior. There was a brief moment where I considered feigning forgetfulness and making an abrupt about face, but my desire for ice cream was compelling enough to keep me there in the aisle. I waited patiently for the woman to make her selection and move away, but sadly, that opportunity never came. She stayed planted there, looking for all the world like she was caressing each carton in the plexiglass cupboard. Eventually, I decided to take a more active role in my pursuit of dessert. "Excuse me," I said, "may I grab something from there?" No response was forthcoming. The woman stayed fixated on the freezer, her hand, which I saw was festooned with remarkably gaudy fake nails, resting lightly on a quart of cookie dough ice cream. "Excuse me," I said again, a bit louder this time. At last, the woman started to move, but it wasn't to make room for me. Instead, I watched in horror as she pulled a carton from the freezer, opened it, pausing briefly to cram the plastic freshness seal into her pocket, and then licked the contents. Only then did the woman speak. "Nah," she said, more to herself than to anyone else. She replaced the lid on the carton, put it back into the freezer, then selected another. Once again, I looked on as she opened the ice cream, dragged her tongue across its surface, pondered for a moment, then closed the carton and returned it to where some unwitting future shopper might stumble upon it. I didn't get ice cream that day, nor any day since, come to think of it. This story started off making me want ice cream, and now I'm afraid to buy it again without checking for that quality seal. Hey, if you're enjoying the video so far, or at least relating to it or learning a lesson or two, please don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to my channel if you haven't already. Story 6. Last week I was walking to work just like any other morning. It was really foggy this morning. As I crossed the bridge over the railway near the station, I hear someone a few meters behind me shout in English, "Hey, excuse me, you there?" Just someone asking for directions, I assume? I'm close to the station, so it's not that uncommon, although a foreigner is a first time. Just a quick look at the guy raises a flag while he spoke good English. He looks like a hobo or maybe a junkie. Could count the amount of teeth he had left on my fingers if I tried. "Do you know where a church is, where they have coffee and a grill?" "I don't really understand what you mean, but I know there's a church that way, though I doubt that's what you're looking for." "What? You don't know? Do you live here? For how long?" At this point, I really get the feeling that something is really wrong with him. A normal person doesn't get that upset over something that some stranger doesn't know about. He's obviously not buzzed. Substances? Escapee from the mental ward? Junkie in need of a fix, trying to find out where he's supposed to meet his dealer? He's given off the feeling that if I just tell him to bug off, he'll get violent. I thought about just lying and saying that I arrived here by train, but I obviously didn't come from the station. "I've lived here for 5 months. "You've lived here for 5 months and you don't know?" Now, standing face to face with me and using both hands to shove me backwards, he doesn't do anything else but standing there questioning me how come I don't know. At this point, I just excuse myself and walk away. Thankfully, he doesn't do anything else, just turns around to get his bag. Nothing else happened after this point. I still have no idea what his problem was or what he was looking for. I spent the rest of the morning thinking, what the hell is wrong with people? Story 7. One time I was in line getting a cup of coffee. These two guys in front of me were having this conversation about how one of them was about to go spend a semester at sea. So there were a lot of questions back and forth, like what kind of stuff are you going to bring? How big is the ship you're going to be on? Questions like that. And then they got their coffees and left. And then it was my turn to order coffee, and as I stood there and waited for the barista to make my drink, this guy to my back tapped me on the shoulder and said, "I spent some time at sea." Usually I'd at least respond maybe with a "really?" for some sort of acknowledgement. But this stuff always happens to me. People start talking to me about random stuff while I'm waiting in line. And I could see where this was going. He'd go into a crazy story about life on the high seas. I'd probably have a lot of questions. I'd wind up staying and talking to this guy a lot longer than I ever really wanted to. So I looked at him and said, yeah, man, well, I lived on a boat for 5 years, really small boat. It was just me and the ocean, just me and this really tiny boat. And he looked at me and said, okay, man, way to make everything about you. I said, excuse me? Yeah, man, I hate it when people do that. When I start to tell a story and someone else just has to chime in with their own story, you could have at least heard me out first. And now I was already putting milk into my coffee. I should have gone, that should have been it. But here I was, still standing there. Obviously, my attempt to pivot out of the conversation hadn't worked out. But why should it have? I could have started talking about basketball. That would have been a nice pivot, something that didn't have anything to do with the sea. But now I wasn't even talking to this guy about the ocean or boats. I was getting scolded for poor conversation. I'm sorry, I told him. I just get really emotional when people start talking about the sea. I hear you, brother. Jesus Christ, I could not shake this guy. Now he was nodding in sympathy, patting me on the back, and what was with all that brother business? I'm not this guy's brother. I've never been on a boat for more than 2 hours at a time. Did you feel it? He asked. Did I feel what? When you were alone out there, did you feel it call out to you? I don't get it. Sure you do. The ocean, the eternal sea, the abyss. Listen, I think you have the wrong idea. I don't. Not many people know what we've been through, you and I. I know you felt it. This had to have been the worst conversation pivot in the history of small talk. I felt like anything I threw at this guy, he caught it, turned it into something even weirder to say right back to me. I tried to pivot toward the truth. Okay, look, I've never been out to sea. I just said that before. I'm really sorry. I didn't know how to react when you told me you spent time at sea, so I just made something up. I don't know why I did it. It obviously wasn't cool of me to lead you on like that, but I really have to go, okay? I just came in for a cup of coffee and now I have to leave, so goodbye. And I started toward the door, but he just followed me. I didn't want to exit now. I didn't want him to find out what direction I was walking in or where I live, so I stopped. He got uncomfortably close and said, now I know you still feel it. I took another step. He took the same step. Come on, man, I really have to go. So go. Are you going to leave me alone? Just admit that you felt it. What? The sea. Tell me that you still feel it. Okay, fine. I still feel it. He just smiled. And then I opened the door and started walking, but I couldn't shake the feeling that he was following me, maybe. That's psycho. So I walked out of the way, and then I got on a subway and took it 2 stops toward the city. And then I got out and took a cab back to my house. Can you feel it? How creepy is that? Can you feel it? No way, bro. Get away. Story 8. This literally happened to me less than an hour ago. I was at Walmart with my friend and he needed to buy some ham. It was a supercenter. Yes, I know, buying meat at Walmart was my first mistake, but it's the closest convenience store. We got up to the counter and the lady is obviously too busy putting rotisserie chickens in plastic containers to acknowledge us. So I say, excuse me, not rudely, just to get her attention. She looks up like I just called her names or something and comes over all irritated. I say, can we get a pound of honey-cured ham, please? Yes, I said please. I'm not recreating this to make me sound like a better person. She is clearly distressed by the whole ordeal, having to open the display, grab out the ham, stuff that is physically taxing. Then she says, do you want that cut 1 or 2? I had never been asked that before, so I thought if she asked if I wanted 1 pound or 2, so I replied just 1 pound's fine. No, do you want it cut 1 or 2? She literally yelled the question at me. It took me a second to realize that meant the thickness of the slices of ham, but I had no idea which one was thinner. I'm still trying to be nice, but I'm slowly losing it. I just ask, which one's thinner? She doesn't even reply. She just goes back, starts crap talking me to her other coworker who seemed way nicer but probably heard a BS version of the story. The lady comes back with the ham, slams it on the scale and puts it in the bag and sends me on my way. The thing that made me think, what the hell is wrong with people? Wasn't the frustration or the yelling at me. It was the fact that she expected me to know what 1 or 2 meant for the freaking slicing machine. I mean, seriously, who the hell expects people to know the exact specifications of their sliced meat? That's true, because she could also have said, do you want it sliced thick or thin? But no, 1 or 2, pick one, come on, 1 or 2. And hey, if you like these stories and you could relate to at least 1 of them or 2 of them, here's more YouTube thinks you're going to love this. I'll catch you in that video, and thanks for hanging out with me on this one.